Hello, all of you risk takers and truth seekers. Welcome to Life, the battlefield, where we explore the front lines of life's biggest challenges and victories. Today, we have an incredible guest, and her name is Adele Haussman. She's the founder and CEO of Her Smile. And in today's interview, Adele will share her lifelong secrets in how women can step into their confidence, achieve healthy waistline, live pain-free in stronger, more flexibility bodies, have beautiful skin, wear age-appropriate makeup, and revamp their wardrobes. Now, let's dive in. Hello, all you risk takers and truth seekers. And today, as I mentioned in my introduction, I have an amazing guest. Her name is Adele Haussman. She's a founder and owner of company Her Smile. But before we dig deep into conversation with Adele, I want you to know that today, apart you're going to learn things about your life and how you can use the makeup, particularly if you're a woman, how you can step into your comfort zone and build your confidence. Today, Adele is going to share her story about resilience as a woman who fled not one country but two countries to find finally safe haven in Australia. Adele, welcome to Podcast Life, the Battlefield.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you for inviting me.
What time did you wake up this morning? Tell me.
About 10 to 4. I got up about 4:15.
10 to 4.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Adele, she drove today from Canberra to Sydney for this interview. So guys, I'm going to put in comment section below her details, give her all love and support on her website, hersmile.com.au. So guys, tap in and give her support. Adele, where are we to start today? You know, I said today in my introduction that we're going to talk about women confidence, how they can achieve healthy waistline, live pain-free life, have the more flexible bodies, and life goes on, right? So it's a one-stop shop, how to make women happy. Okay. Let me start with your childhood in Rhodesia, today Zimbabwe, right? So you're born in one country, which changed the name, changed the regime, and you need to flee with your family. Tell us a little bit more about childhood and growing up in Rhodesia.
Okay, so my entire childhood, we were at war. Rhodesia was at war. So I was born in 1962, and the Rhodesian War, a bush war, started in 1964. So I was 2. And it ended when I was in 1979, when I was 17. So my entire childhood was war. The country was at war, and we were sanctioned. So we didn't have, I remember needing point shoes, you know, the ballet shoes, when you go up on the toes. We couldn't get them in the country. And I actually remember, anyway, we're jumping ahead now.
No, that's okay.
Let's go back to
the smile, the childhood, guys. Do you remember that moment when you couldn't have something in your childhood? Here we go.
Yeah. So things you couldn't have in your childhood, like lollies. There weren't a lot of lollies. So we never ate a lot. And so I've got really good teeth because we weren't brought up on lollies. Anyway, so I remember, when I was 4, first of all, I was born into a family. My parents were, my father was an accountant and my mother was a secretary. My dad had a boxing club.
My man, okay. Give us more, yes.
And he trained the Rhodesian boxers to the Olympics.
Okay.
And I absolutely loved going to his boxing club. I grew up there, but I was female.
Okay.
And my dad was a real 50s man. So women were not seen, children weren't seen or heard, but women were just, but wallflowers.
Yeah.
They were just made to look beautiful and produce children and make the home run efficiently.
Okay.
So they were definitely not athletes. And my dad always said, as often as he could, he was constantly reminding us that women were weak. He was always saying women are the weaker sex.
So just to understand, your father told you, right?
My father told us that
That
right
women
from
are weaker.
all the time. That's all we heard was that women were the weaker sex. So I remember when Margaret Thatcher got in, he had a complete meltdown when she got into...
Margaret Thatcher, right?
It absolutely ruined his life because women are weak, okay? That's the home I was brought up in. But his boxing club, I mean, I was just a little girl at this stage, right? And we were brought up in the, well, I was always, I followed my dad everywhere. I was his, definitely, he loved me to death, his little blue-eyed girl where I've got brown eyes. And he loved me, and I obviously loved him because I was always with him everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember growing up in the boxing club and watching the men and watching them skipping and doing all these amazing things. And all I was allowed to do was sit and be quiet because I was female. My brother is 2 years older than me, and he was in the boxing club doing his thing. And I remember when the boxing matches were on, the women would go up, these beautiful women would go up holding a number saying what round it was.
Yes,
Do you know
round,
that?
yeah.
And I always just made to say to my dad, why can't I do that? And of course, you know why I couldn't do that, right?
Yeah,
but I
because-
didn't because they were always half-dressed women just to look pretty. But of course, he would never let his daughter do that. But at the age of 4, I remember in the 60s in Rhodesia, there was no television. So I'm not sure where I found out about ballet, but at the age of 4, I begged my parents to send me to ballet. So they found a ballet teacher, and off I went, and I was hooked. This was my thing. At the age of 5, my ballet teacher put me into the ballet Eisteddfod in Rhodesia, the Rhodesian Eisteddfod, and I won my category in the ballet at 5. And my mum told me that there were children on the stage that all came on one by one, did solos. And she told me that there was one little girl who came on and just cried. And then there was me, and I came on. And the adjudicator stood up at the end, because at the end of every section she would give an adjudication. And apparently she said, "The mother of the little girl that cried, please just take your child off the stage. She hates the stage." And she said, "The mother of this little girl," who was me, she said, "she's born for the stage. She is..."
How old were they?
I was 5.
5.
Right. So there I've got a photo of me holding my trophy, and that was the beginning of my passion. I was absolutely passionate about the stage and performing. And so I continued to dance. Sorry, I don't know why I'm crying.
No, because it's a memory. Look, I don't like, if I see myself 5 years old, lucky you have a picture, you know.
Yes, because my father was very, very frugal, so he didn't believe in photographs.
Oh, really?
They were very expensive.
Something is with that generation, right?
Yeah.
You know, because my father is as well man 50s. Even I was born in 72. But thing it is something about them. You know, everything's too expensive. You don't need nothing. You need to grow up, marry, they have the wife, kids, and get out of the house. And I'm like, why so much? You know, I want to have the life. Like, I want to have some sneakers. No, you don't need this. That's too expensive. Like. And now I understand, you know what I mean? Like that picture was not needed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Dad was, I remember, even now I drive my husband nuts because I'm always switching off lights.
Yeah.
And my husband always leaving on lights. And I'm going, what's wrong with you? That's costing money. And my dad would, I was just thinking this morning at 4 o'clock when I had the light on, Dad would go, be running around the house checking that we had all switched off the lights because it was a waste of money. So I think electricity must have been expensive
We grew up in
in
different
those
times,
days.
yes. No, it is. We grew up in different times.
Although they are expensive now, but anyway. So
trophy 5 years old, little Adele with the trophy.
So I carried on. I was very good at school athletics, the running. So I used to run at school, and I used to run the sprinting races because I was really fast on my feet. And so that I remember at school getting a hockey stick. I don't know if my parents, or I don't know why, but someone insisted that I join the hockey team. So I joined the hockey team, and My mum had bought me a hockey stick, so maybe my father had rubbed off on me, but running across the field with my hockey stick, and I'm shouting to everyone, "Don't touch my hockey stick, you will scratch it." So, my dad rubbed off on me. Anyway, so then at the age of 10, so I went on with my ballet dancing, and I then started doing jazz and tap as well. And at the age of 10, I won the trophies for the best all-rounder in jazz, tap, and ballet for the Eidsted. Unfortunately, at this stage, the Rhodesia was collapsing. The Rhodesian war was really smothering, and the sanctions were setting in. And as I mentioned earlier, the ballet shoes, needing point shoes, was a real issue. And this is where I remember my dad looking into making ballet shoes in Rhodesia. And I remember the prototype, coming home with the ballet shoes. So I'm not sure who made it for him, but he was a real businessman and an entrepreneur. And even though he was an accountant, he was now venturing off into construction.
Yeah.
But he was looking obviously at other methods to earn money in a sanctioned country and support his family. And so we weren't allowed lollies, but he was trying to make ballet shoes. Anyway, he didn't pursue it. I don't know why. Maybe they couldn't get the materials. And then our ballet teacher told us that there was the Rhodesian National Ballet.
Yes.
Now, they were really proactive, really proactive. Rhodesia was phenomenal. Ian Smith, the Prime Minister. And he was really supportive of the arts. And every year they brought in a ballet master or ballet mistress to run the ballet company.
Okay, okay.
So they would come in from overseas. And this particular year, 1975, they brought in Miss June Mitchell from the Royal Ballet in London. And she sent out an audition notice to the whole country and said she was putting on her production of The Nutcracker. And she was looking for little children because it's a story about children. And so our ballet teacher told us, go off, audition. You might get a role as a rat or a soldier or something.
Yeah.
Just go and audition. So off we went. I was 12. And off we went and auditioned. And I got the lead of Clara in The Nutcracker, which was the most incredible experience.
Excuse me, yes.
Because she brought with her Dame Mill Park from the Royal Ballet in London, the prima ballerina, and she performed the Sugar Plum Fairy. But all the Rhodesian children performed in this absolutely incredible production. I was on stage all the time. I had quick changes between, the ball gown to the sleeping, going to bed to the sleeping scene, and so on. There's so many quick changes, hair changes, and I had my own private dressing room, my own private hairdresser, my own private makeup artist, and I was 12.
So that actually set up you for the future. Obviously, those events, right? You become today what you are.
I think everything molds us.
Molds us, yes.
This didn't go to my head, although I do remember everybody running around talking about how I was going to be shifting from one ballet school to the next, and that this ballet, I should be going to a better ballet school and all this stuff. I just stayed where I was. My feet were very grounded. My father hated the ballet industry. He hated ballet. He didn't want me to pursue it. He was going to do everything he could to shut it down. He didn't want me to be a dancer. And so you said, set me up for the future. Well, yes, a couple of things happened, Mario.
Yes, please.
And I'd love to know how you would feel about it. But first of all, one, I was seen by Talent Scouts, and I got the lead in a television commercial for toothpaste.
Okay, you need to start somewhere. And you have a beautiful teeth because you didn't grow up on a sweet.
And I used just Gibbs toothpaste. Anyway, so that my husband met me before he met me because he saw me in the ad. It was really shown everywhere because now we had television.
So that was the law on first ad.
Yes. Anyway, and so then there are two things that happened, Mario, that I only discovered when I was 32.
Okay.
Which absolutely devastated me at 32. All right. One, The Rhodesian Allied Arts, they were the acting organization equivalent to the Rhodesian National Ballet. They had the acting division, and they saw me in the Nutcracker, and they phoned my mum, and they said that they wanted me to be Sleeping Beauty in their next production.
Okay.
And my mother said, phone the ballet teacher. And what do you think the ballet teacher said?
For mother.
She said no. And they never told me.
Oh my God.
I was never told. I was not given the choice. And I would definitely have. Who would not want to be Sleeping Beauty after being Clara in the Nutcracker?
You know,
I was 13. They told me when I was 32.
There's a tears in your eyes.
Oh.
And
I'm trying not to cry with my story.
You can't cry. I have no tissues.
Funny. Funny.
It's interesting how somebody kills our dreams.
And as I said to you, my father hated the ballet industry, and so he then, at the age of 13, when I was 13, while this was all happening, he received a telephone call from the Rhodesian National Ballet, saying that they wanted to sponsor me to the Royal Ballet in London.
Okay, that's a big jump, yes.
And my dad put the phone down on them, and he never told me.
How did you find out all this?
He told me when I was 32. My mum and dad sat down and
there's
said,
like a guilt conscious.
They said, we need to tell you something. And I had just had my baby girl, and I was pregnant with my son, and they told me. And how do you answer that?
Yeah, how do you answer that?
Someone said to me, oh, Adele, you've still got a fire in your belly. And I went, yeah, probably, for that reason. I was devastated. Devastated.
Yeah.
What would my trajectory have been?
Yeah, like look, because we don't know what will happen, in your life. But still, your life was full of obstacles. Rhodesia was, as you say, falling apart. There's the international sanctions, and obviously you guys need to move. That's what I understand. You need to move from Rhodesia.
So my dad wouldn't. He was really committed to Rhodesia, and it became Zimbabwe. And while everybody was leaving, and in droves, they were leaving all the time. And my husband and I got married in 1982. But before we get to that, I then carried on. I carried on dancing. I always used to wonder why nothing came from that, why it was only that. And then I got into the professional production of My Fair Lady, the musical.
Oh, okay.
And so I performed in that, and that was brilliant. And we toured the country, and we were really well paid. But I was still at school.
Yes.
Okay? And while I was still at school, I opened my ballet school. So I was going to school. Our school starts at 7:30 in the morning in Rhodesia, and it finished at 2. And then I would go and teach from 2 to it finished at 1:30. So I'd start teaching at 2 until 5 or 6 p.m. And then I would go to my ballet school to my teacher to do my teacher's exams, or finish off complete my dancing exams in jazz, tap, and ballet. So that was my life, and then weekends were performing. So my brother, I remember for my one birthday, I had to stay at home and with my ballet teacher while my brother and my sister was younger, my brother was older, and my parents went on holiday to South Africa.
Yes.
Because I couldn't go because I had to do my ballet lessons because I had a ballet exam coming up. And he always used to say, when we visited Zimbabwe when he was still living there, and I took my children, he said, come with me, Kirsten, I'm going to take you to see where your mother was robbed of her childhood. And that was the ballet studio where I used to dance.
So can we just move forward? So obviously, your career was moving to that direction of dancing, the feminine beauty, makeup, being the lady.
Yes, before I sorry.
Yes, free.
I forgot to mention in the 60s, I was a childhood model. So with the ballet studio, she had some connections, the ballet teacher, and she got me in touch. They were putting on some modeling with the minis and the maxis. They came out in the minis and the maxis in the 60s, and I was very fortunate to be one of the models that modeled the minis. And the maxis. I remember wearing a maxi as well. So, you know, the long skirt or the really extra short skirt.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, the hippie era. And I came out in a mini. So, yes, that was me in the modeling. I was influenced by the hair, the modeling, you know, right down to in the 60s. Right back then, it was makeup, it was hair, it was the way you dress. My mother had a seamstress.
Yes.
And she was an Italian woman, absolutely incredible, Mrs. Oberto. And my mum was always going for dress fittings, and so were we. She would take us along, my sister and I, and we'd have outfits made together. So seamstress and dressing and fashion. My mum was really into fashion. She was crazy about clothing and always designing something. She always said if she could have her life again, she would have been a fashion designer. So my mum was a secretary, but in her heart, she was a fashion designer.
Well, look, I was hoping today that, you know, I will not think about my childhood, right? You know, seriously, because
Good, go for it.
no, because it's like, you know, but as much as you're talking, I mean, about your childhood, you know, like I have a parallel wall next to me. It's my childhood, right?
Right.
And I think that most of kids actually gone through this in our age, right?
Yeah.
That parents actually killed our dreams. You know what I mean? That parents are those ones. Because I was making notes, you know. Because first of all, what country doesn't have ballet shoes, right? This is the first thing. And then I make the parallel, you know, venture in my past, in my childhood, because I said to my parents, I want to have the Nike sneakers. And there was no Nike sneakers in Yugoslavia, in communism at that stage, you know what I mean? And somebody brought me the box of the shoes from the Nike sneakers box, right?
Right.
See, here we go. So, oh my God, I cherish that box. But my father is sure because he says to me that's capitalistic, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever. But
So you understand how I feel.
so, like, you know what I mean? But then I seeing you, like, with the tears in your eyes, you know what I mean? Even now, today, you think what my life could be. And we are always meeting people in our life who try to sabotage us,
Yeah.
put obstacles ahead of us. And I say, guys, today it's lesson. It's not just about, you know, mental health in a women, how women can live a pain-free life, look better, feel better, but as well about resilience. And this is a true resilience. When you have the woman in here in my studio today talking about the country separated by color of the skin, the civil war, the sanctions, and you need to flee, right? You know what I mean? What year did you guys need to leave the Rhodesia?
So my husband and I got married in 1982. We emigrated. I just said to my dad, I'm sorry, but you are a financial prisoner in this country, and I don't want to be. Yeah. So I just said, we're out of here. So Brendan, my husband and I, he had a little Mazda. If I just show you the photograph, he had a little blue Mazda and little blue Mazda 616, and we had to put everything we owned into this little car. So we had roof racks, we had everything. We had applied to, well, he was a South African living in Rhodesia, so that made it easier for him. I was married to him.
So he's married for the papers, maybe, no? He was married you for the papers, Rhodesian papers?
No. He was from South Africa, so those were better papers.
Oh, okay. Try to put a smile
Anyway, so we, I said to Dad, sorry, I can't build my life here. Yeah. So and I was only 20.
Yes.
So Brett and I got married, we immigrated, and we got to the border post. It was 8 hours from where we lived. We drove, got to the border post. It was always 42 degrees in the shade there, very hot. And we went into Bite Bridge. And you now have to go through the passport control and then the customs control. And then they give you a little slip. And that slip is the part that you give to the gate guy, the gatekeeper. And he opens the gate to let you drive through. That's how it was in those days, okay? So it probably is in these days too. So it probably isn't a gate. But anyway, that's not the point. So, so we had this piece of paper, Mario. And it was our ticket to freedom. We had just been through...
From Rhodesia to South Africa.
We're now sitting at the border post, all right? There's Rhodesia, there's South Africa, well, Zimbabwe now, and South Africa. We've driven there. We've got all our belongings. We've shut down our lives there. Now all we have to do is cross that border post, cross that gate.
So that was difficult.
And we're in freedom, all right? And, well, that's the way we saw it. And, because there's this side, you're financial prisoners, okay? There's this huge war going on, and, well, there was political now. And I don't want to talk about the politics in Zimbabwe. People always say when you speak to Zimbabweans, they always put a brick wall up. They don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about that, okay? Because then I will sob. So we're just going to say that I then got to the border post with my husband. We had our ticket to cross, and it got windy.
Don't tell me the paper fly away.
Your worst nightmare.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing now, but okay, you know Australia, so like you say.
The wind took the paper, Mario.
From who? From you?
I don't know which one of us were holding it, right?
Okay.
And we are running.
Oh my God.
We are running for this piece of paper because that's now going to get us across that gate. Anyway, we then take the paper. We managed to get it. We grab it. We were in the car and we're over the border. And it was just so exciting to be free. To be on that side of the border where you could buy ballet shoes, you could buy lollies, you could buy any drink you wanted. It was just freedom and excitement and hope. And off we went. And we went, my husband had managed to get a job. You said there were no tissues here. I'm going to have to find
No. I'll bring you tissues. Okay.
Anyway, I found some tissues. Anyway, and we're now traveling. My husband had managed to get a job because my husband had been working for my dad. So he was in construction. And so, and I know my brother will want to at this point say, you just left Dad in the lurch. And I had to step in and take over from Brett because you just decided that you were going to be gone in 4 weeks and Dad needed someone to help him in the business. So we will say that there for my brother's sake. Anyway, and but we were there, and Brett had a job in a place called Nelspruit, which was very nice. It was 30 minutes from the Kruger National Park, the wild Kruger National Park. Fantastic place. And that's where we started our new life. And he was working for a construction company as a site foreman. And I was, in 1981, I forgot to mention, in 1981, my dad had made me do a beauty specialist diploma because I couldn't go to university because universities were so political at that stage. They were just so full of rioting. And so there was a CIT or a Polytech, as they called it, and I did a 1-year course in as a beauty specialist, and I managed to win Student of the Year.
Okay.
And that was now the basics for the beauty. And so when I got to Nelspruit, I didn't have a job, and so I went and worked for and ran someone else's beauty salon. And I did that for a while, and I had my ballet certificates hanging on the wall in my studio at the back of a pharmacy. There was this beauty salon. And that's where I worked out of. I had a job. I was grateful. We were happy. And one of my clients was the local ballet teacher. She arrived and saw my qualifications on the wall. And she said, "What are you doing here? Why are you doing this beauty when you should be teaching ballet and running my ballet school?" But anyway, she said, "Look, I'm leaving Nelspruit. I'm going to live in Johannesburg. Will you take over my ballet school?" So I did in 1984. And then, so I worked for a year or two for the pharmacy, and then I went into the ballet, opened a ballet school in Nelspruit, where I ran a ballet school in an old Catholic church hall for 11, how long did I run it there? For 20 years? 19 years I ran it in
So that was like
Nelspruit.
mid-90s or 2000s?
Until we immigrated. So from 1984 until 2002.
Okay, so let's go say that period of time, let's go make a leap jump, right? 20 years you in South Africa, okay? But they need to move again in Australia. Why is that? I mean, I wanted to people understand
Yeah, so
your story because
we were
you don't come, sorry to interrupt, so like, you don't come from the easy countries. You know what I mean? When we watching the news today, Zimbabwe and South Africa, they're torn apart. It's like a very, very different situation over there, right? But the thing it is, you and your husband managed to be 20 years in South Africa, and then again you've been forced to leave.
Well, you know, when we got to South Africa, it was in 1983. We just saw hope and freedom. Looking back now, we should have just come straight to Australia.
Yeah.
But we were a very, very close family.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a close
His
family.
family
Yeah,
and my family, we were so close.
Yeah.
My parents were our best friends. My parents were Brett and my best friends. And so we started our lives in Nelspruit. We were really happy. I was putting on ballet productions, putting on huge productions that people were writing into the newspaper, asking me when my next production was so that they could bring their family to watch.
Was that some sort of like sense of accomplishment, achievement?
Yeah. Now, remember, those people didn't know who I was. And my biggest hurdle, Mario, was I didn't speak the local language. I spoke English and they spoke Afrikaans.
Yeah, that's a different.
So I was now sitting in a country, in a town, a very small town. At that stage, there were only 80,000 people. It was a farming community, very, very wealtty farming community.
So did you say small city, right?
Yeah,
80,000.
small little town.
Try to come my city, 50,000 people. It's the fourth largest one.
So the 80,000 was tiny. I mean, they had one grocery store, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I went, and I'm teaching there, and I opened my ballet school, and I've got the gynecologist, the pediatrician, the architects, all these really incredible people sending their children to me for ballet. And I'm thinking, I must be a really good ballet teacher. And I found out later that they all saw the writing on the wall and realized that their children needed to learn to speak English.
Oh, okay.
So they were sending their children to me for ballet
And
because
English.
they would learn to speak English. Because I was known as the Engelse Dame, the English lady.
Okay.
And that was who I was on the street. So I would walk down the street and people just saw me as I've always been a freak, Mario, all my life. I have always been the nerd, the standout nerd on my own at school. No one sat with me at lunch. I was the only ballet dancer in the school. No one related to what I did. When I was at a school, an all-girls school, the neighboring boys' school, back in Rhodesia, when they put on productions, the boys' school, then I would get leads in that production because they were looking for female to play female parts, that sort of thing. So great opportunity, but I was always on my own at school. And then I was just always nerdy and alien and different. So I was used to it. I was like in my comfort zone in Nelspruit, in the city where no one spoke English, and but very wealthy farming community, and they sent their children and to me for dancing. And so the ballet took off. It was really, really successful. Honestly, it was the happiest times. We couldn't afford to buy a house. We lived out of town in a cottage. Which, looking back, knowing at the time too, what we did was we saved our money until eventually we had the deposit to buy a house. And then we put tenants in the house. We couldn't afford to live in the house still. We had to live out of town on a property, driving in every day to whatever we did. And it was dangerous at night to leave the city and go back home to the country into a rural property. And so my husband put the CB radio in. Do you remember the CB radio? Yeah. And we had our handles. He was Jungle Jim. I'm on my way home. And he would go, okay, Twinkle Toes, because mine was Twinkle Toes. Our handles. And I'd let him know that I was leaving the ballet school at 8 o'clock at night, driving back home off out of town, which was dangerous. And he would know to wait for me and whatever. And so we put tenants in our house that we bought in Nelspruit. For 4.5 years we rented it out because we couldn't afford to live there. The interest rates were 23% on the mortgage that we had borrowed to buy that house. So
So what did you say? What was that? What was the interest rate?
23%. People complain about 4 or 5%.
No, I need to ask you again because I think myself, did I have proper 23?
Yeah, we couldn't afford to live in the house. And so, and then, of course, when we did eventually move in, it was like we were moving into a castle. You know, it was so exciting. And we really made it home, and we were so happy there. And we lived in that house for 16 years. And we were just the happiest ever. And then, of course, then we had, so we were married 8 years before we had our first child. Kirsten, we had just suddenly, Brett's oldest sister had her fourth child, and it was a little girl. And I just said to Brett, that's it. I want one of those.
So, I wanted one of those. It's not a shop like it's just like a.
So that was it. And I was like, got out the, I want a girl, and it
must have the blue eyes, and I got to do this.
Yeah. I want a girl. I didn't say the color of the eyes, but in the local baby magazine, they had a recipe for a girl and a boy, and I got out the recipe, and we did it to the T, and we had a girl. So, and I kept that magazine, and 5 years later, we did the recipe for the boy, and we had a boy. So who knows?
Maybe you should keep that magazine today, but today the recipe, and charge people for that if you want a baby like this.
True.
Yeah,
you should try and find it.
Yeah, today there's no recipes anymore.
Well, I don't know what they're doing now.
So,
but
so like 20 years in South Africa, life was reasonable for both of you?
Initially. Yeah.
Initially. And then there must be a reason why you left.
Well, now is where it gets really sad, is I haven't really spoken much about this. Probably because it's so
well, the interest
confronting.
Rates was more.
Yeah, so we had Kirsten, then we had Brian, and Kirsten was, but when we immigrated, Kirsten was 12 when we immigrated from Rhodesia, from South Africa to Australia. But what was happening was I was teaching in a school, in a church hall. At the back of the church, if you don't mind me saying.
Of course you say.
She was a white nurse.
Okay.
A white woman. And she opened a clinic behind the church. Now, what she was doing was she was administering an antiviral to anyone who had been
infected,
sexually molested
okay.
in the previous 24 hours.
Okay.
To prevent them from getting AIDS.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Australia, they call this AIDS clinic. Yeah.
But what you have to understand is, I'm standing every afternoon or all day teaching ballet to little children. And I see the people walking and passing
that clinic
with children and babies, girls, to the clinic at the back to get the antiviral. All right, so I know why they're there.
Yeah.
It was in my face. And I said to my husband, for our daughter's sake, we have to leave. Now, for our son, when we got to Australia, he was 7. Initially, we moved into our house and we lost him 3 times because our house didn't have electric fencing and electric gates and wire on it and protection. When we lived in South Africa, we had 6-foot wall around our home. We had razor wire. We had an electric gate. When you got to the house, you had to have a key to unbolt the wrought iron gates on the doors, on the windows. All the windows had burglar bars. All the doors had burglar bars. So you were opening cages to go inside. You would go inside, and when you went to bed at night, there was a gate that bolted the whole sleeping quarters with that deadlift, whatever, dead bolt that you put on. I said deadlift. Of course I did, being an ex-bodybuilder, but dead bolts. And then we would go to bed. And that was how you slept at night, because otherwise you didn't sleep at night because they would break in at night. And so...
Can I just stop you there for a second? Because I never heard such a thing in my life. What? Yeah, so seriously, like in Australia, you need to have alarm, it's I need a little alarm, maybe safety net on the door because of the mosquitoes, whatever it is. What you explained to me, it's not even in military, and I spent 14 years in military. I never saw.
Really?
That's correct.
We lived in cages. And so
Literally that cages, yeah.
When we then went out to dinner, you would get to a car park and park your car and be confronted by a really, really rough-looking man, holding, in this particular case, a rocket launcher, a little short, thick barrel. My husband said it was a rocket launcher. So that the restaurant was paying these security people to look after their patrons' vehicles while they had dinner, because the people were coming out to go to their cars and the cars had been stolen. And they were so sick of this happening, so they were paying their own security companies to protect the vehicles so that the customers could eat their meal in peace. What this did, Mario, if you can imagine a 7-year-old little boy growing up with this. So we would drive from Nelspruit to Johannesburg, would be like driving from Canberra to Sydney, 3-hour journey. And in that journey, you would be pulled over by a roadblock. Now, we're talking 1995 to 2002, this was happening in South Africa. You'd be pulled over. My husband wore a beard, and he always wore khaki clothing because that was the way, he was on construction sites. And so there was a movement, again, I will say a white movement in South Africa, that was their uniform. Beards and khaki. So they saw my husband and just saw a problem. And so they would stop the vehicles, and then they would look through the vehicles, rummaging for stuff and help themselves to stuff that they want, but pretending to be looking for
weapons
arson.
or whatever. Yeah.
And so we were always being stopped. And of course, we've got a 7-year-old, a child, a little boy in the car growing up, and this is what he saw. So when we got to Australia, he was going to a Christian school. And they were very concerned about two things. One, all he did all the time was build guns. In those days, in year one, they would be given cardboard boxes to make things out of.
Yeah.
And I don't know what other children were making, but my son was making guns all the time. And two, his recurring dream, here come the tears, 7-year-old recurring dream was that he is sitting in the car with the Jeep with Action Man. Now, Action Man, he was into Action Man at the time, was a Jeep that we had bought him, and Action Man's like a Barbie doll, but he's an Action Man.
Yeah.
And he is looking up, they're driving along, and in front, a little girl has been shot, and it's a roadblock. And the military walked to my husband, his dad, who is Action Man, and says, "Your son is next." That's my 7-year-old's recurring dream when we immigrated. And you talk about you'd never seen burglar bars. When we got to Australia, moved into the house we rented for 3 weeks when we moved here. Sorry, not 3 weeks, for 6 months when we moved here. It had no bars on the windows.
That's to say,
I couldn't sleep. I was scared someone was going to get through the window and steal my children.
I think that most of people, including myself, I grew up in a peaceful society. In ex-Yugoslavia, communism was peaceful. There was no weapons on the street. Then I had a war. I went in a war. I was 18 years old. So I lived through the war. But I never had a problem to sleep in my house. Doesn't matter, even during the war, right? That I have no problem. But when I hear the people coming from Rhodesia, today Zimbabwe, when they're coming from the South Africa, I heard some stories, and it's all just stories, but you live there, right? That you live in a cage, that people actually barricading themselves in. And there was a few years ago, this problem with what's it called, with the farmers. The farmers being attacked, so they showed them on the TV how they barricade themselves inside in houses. I was like, my God, this is not a life, because if this is how you need to sleep, still, when you need to wake up and to get out of the house or the cage. So for me, you're a very brave woman, honestly. You're a very brave woman. There's not many people can argue with you. But society is full of alpha males. But I truly believe you are a lioness. You protected your family. You take care of your family. You saw the crap, intimidating crap in life, literally crop, like that church and behind the church clinic, and yet you survive all these odds to come in a country which is beautiful.
Getting back to Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, what I didn't tell you was, if you wanted to go on holiday, so you're now just going to say this morning, I'm leaving at 4 o'clock. I've decided I'm leaving at 4 o'clock to come to Canberra, to come to Sydney from Canberra. You couldn't do that in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, during the war. If you wanted to go on holiday anywhere, if you wanted to leave the city, I was living in Salisbury, which became Harare. If you wanted to leave the city, you'd have to join the convoy. So there would be a convoy that would leave outside a meeting point, Rhodesia, Salisbury, every time. Every day, it would leave at 5 a.m. You'd meet at 5 a.m. It would leave at 6 a.m. And it was really exciting.
Oh, my God.
You would get there, and everyone would get out their cars, and they'd have their flasks of coffee, their thermos flasks of coffee, and it was so exciting. You're going on holiday. And then you would have this briefing where the military would bring you all together, and they would talk about, if we get ambushed, this is what you must do, this is what you must do, this is what you must do.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, I think that's my phone.
That's okay. It's
Let's switch it off. And then they would have, the military would give their briefing, and then you would go to your cars, you would get in, and then you would leave. Now, you would leave in a convoy, cars behind each other, and then there would be armored military vehicles interspersed through the convoy, and then there would be a helicopter that flew overhead, going ahead to seek and see if, because what the terrorists used to do, so it was a bush war on the ground, the terrorists used to dig a trench across the whole road overnight.
Okay.
So then that would bring the convoy to a grinding halt, and then they would open up on you. And so the helicopter would go ahead and check to see. Now, the one year we had gone on holiday to a very fantastic place called Kariba. Real holiday destination, huge big man-made dam. It was dammed the river between Zambia and Zimbabwe. And that was a fantastic holiday resort. And the one year, so people would go in convoy with their caravans, whatever arrangement they had to sleep when they got there. And I remember we were leaving, we were coming back, and we'd taken the convoy, and the terrorists opened up on the convoy and killed one of our friends. She was 16. In those days, you could sleep. In those days, you could... in those days they used to allow you to sleep in a caravan or sit in a caravan while it was being pulled. So the parents would drive the car and the kids would sit in the caravan at the back and play around in the caravan while Dad was driving. And she had fallen asleep on one of the bunk beds, and the terrorists got her and shot her. So it was terrible. I also remember one year in the 70s, Dad was taking us to Kariba on holiday, and they were the old Viscounts. Do you remember the aeroplanes, the Viscounts? I don't know if you remember them. No. The old Viscounts, and there were two. Rhodesia had two Viscounts that used to take you to your holiday destination. From Salisbury to Kariba, used to fly you there. Dad had booked us on the Viscount. We were going to fly to Kariba for a holiday. But my dad, you never knew what he was going to do. With business, you never knew if you would have the car packed, but sitting in the car ready to leave, and he would cancel the holiday. So because he had work. So you never knew with him if you were actually really ever going. Yeah. And we were booked on the Viscounts, and we never got there because he had to cancel it because of work. So we fortunately never got on the plane. And that plane took off, Mario, and it was shot down by the terrorists.
I'm sorry that experience.
Yeah, and we were luckily not to be on it, because what happened was the plane crashed. And you're not going to believe me when I tell you, and I won't go into all the details. I'll leave a lot to your imagination. But the plane crashed, and there were survivors. There were women, children, survivors. And the terrorists moved in on the planes, and I won't tell you what they did to those women and children.
The tragedy is, dear Adele, that society we live in, they don't know what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
today the media sharing the news, which can be verified on Twitter. Somebody says, her says, these things. I grew up, I say, like in society which was very protective of the citizens. Communism was very protective. Nobody can touch us from outside, but inside we were like, government can kill you. But the fact is, I remember in the 80s in 70s, there was a lot of happening. As a kid, we were always told how grateful we should be where we're living because we have no terrorists, we have no this, we have no that. And I think that forms you today, the person you are, truly you are. And I'm grateful that you are today, you are the testament that obstacles can be overcome, that there's a person like yourself who can share that story. That's a forgotten stories, because in that incident, somebody lost a father, mother, husband, wife,
Yes.
child.
Yes.
And they become statistics. That's a cruel reality of our life we're living. And I say I'm grateful today. On behalf of every listener to Their Life, the Battlefield, every person across the globe, that you cherish these memories and sharing with us, because it's not easy to witness as a kid something like this.
And I remember one year, still living in Zimbabwe as a child with my parents, one year we had woken up and I remember hearing bombs going off in our suburb. And Dad coming running to the children's side of the house, grabbing us and putting us underneath the beds. And we lay low. We lay, you used to practice these drills in school, but not at home. And suddenly we were all under the beds. In those days, you could go under beds. Yeah. And fortunately, not that would do much. But anyway, we were under the beds. And what they were doing is the terrorists had gone onto a neighboring hill, a hill near our suburb, and they were mortaring the suburb. So they were dropping bombs, rocketing, whatever it is you call it. Yeah. And one landed in our next door to us in an open plot because it was a new suburb they were still building, and it landed there, but it missed us. I remember running outside, hearing bombs going off, and us standing at the house and looking out, and they were bombing the local petrol depot. And it was just at night. You can imagine what that looked like.
Can I say something to you, share something with you? Your father is a hero for me.
Yeah, he was an incredible man.
He
was an incredible man.
Because I'm just listening to you again. I say, I have the parallel world here next to me. Because I was 18 years old when the civil war broke out in Yugoslavia. And my parents left me that night. They left me a message on the table. We are okay. I saw them 3 years later. Your father was protecting family.
He was an incredible man.
My father was talking to me how he's brave and alpha male and the killer and everything. The war broke out. He held his wife undies, my mom undies, and ran away. Right? So that's the difference. So congratulations, this one. See the smile?
My dad is an extraordinary
He's a hero,
man.
like he knew it.
He was an extraordinary
Plus
man.
your skin, you could go under the bed, you know what I mean? Like imagine if your father had to put me in. So tell me, you come to Australia, ballet, you teach kids English. So all your life you spend to make it people, you get all these people around you and you make them better. Either in ballet, to look prettier, to behave better. So what was your life starting in Australia? I'm interested now, after all this experience, good or bad we can call, it made you who you are today.
Yes.
And you can teach all of us here about your life experience. So nobody can complain. So you come in Australia, no grills on the windows, no armed guards, you know, I mean, like no alarm, no electric fences, no barbed raised wire. There's no guns, mortars, nothing, you know, obviously.
Just freedom and hope and safety and just I just wanted a quiet life. Yeah, I just wanted to enjoy what we had. We had a very ambitious daughter. Our children did very well at school. They really embraced everything. It was fantastic. So we won't spend too much time because I know we've spent a lot of time already. Just fast forwarding through, the children grew up. So we were here in Australia. We didn't know anybody. Okay, we were very alone. There was no family. We were used to family. Family was everything, and now there was no family, and no one really cared. And so I felt myself withdrawing, and I left the ballet industry I came and I taught in 2002. I left the ballet industry in 2005. I couldn't run other people's ballet schools. It was, I'd had my own business. I'd been an entrepreneur all my life, from the age of 17, still at school. So it was really difficult to teach and run someone else's studios. And so we'll kind of just leave it at that. I left the ballet industry. I'm not going to go into too much depth there. And I had to reinvent myself. And so I had the beauty specialist diploma my father had made me do in 1981. I refreshed it in 2005 in Canberra. I opened a ballet school I beg your pardon, I opened a beauty salon from my home. And I worked in the home. We converted a double garage into a beauty salon and later included a gym. And so I ran a beauty salon. Stop saying ballet school. I ran a beauty salon.
That must be the reason why. Yeah. We're going to cut to this.
Yeah, anyway, so I'm now growing that side of the business, becoming a specialist at skincare and all the things that women need done to make them feel comfortable in their bodies. And then I was really, really busy. I was flat out 6 days a week, going strength to strength. And then the global financial crisis hit. And I went from flat out 6 days a week to suddenly running at 30%. And I said to my husband, this will never happen again. If I have 3 different businesses running at 30%, I'll be busy.
Yes.
So I pursued the personal training. I said to him, I'm going to do personal training. I did my personal training qualification and realized that I had personally trained myself. So I skip forward 10 years, the first 10 years of us in Australia, because they were really dark. They were really difficult. Especially those first 3, 4, 5 years, not having any family, no one caring. Mum and Dad were so far away. They were our best friends. They used to come and visit us every 18 months and stay for 10 weeks. But my mum had been diagnosed with cancer in 1979 when I was 17 and given 3 months to live. And she had fought cancer for 25 years. So by the time she and Dad came to look at Canberra and said, yes, we could see you living there. Please go. Please take the children. And that was the reason why we went. After applying to get in, we got in. We came with a full visa. What do they call it?
Permanent residence. Permanent residence.
Yeah, permanent residence.
That's correct.
That's what we came with. And so we were very grateful, so grateful. But it was difficult. Mum and Dad came when they could, but eventually they passed in 2007 and 2008, which is when the global financial crisis hit. But anyway, Mum and Dad passed, and they were no longer visiting. Family back home weren't very interested in what we were doing. And so we were on our own, and it was very lonely. And I had to get up every day and smile for my children and make it sound like the best thing that ever happened. But I was dying inside. I was falling apart. I was an emotional wreck. I put on weight. I was emotionally eating. I went from this happy ballet teacher to this very, 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 very miserable, falling apart mum of 2 and wife. And I was very unhappy. And so I did the personal training qualification and suddenly realized that it was like being back in the ballet studio.
See how did you bounce it back?
Yeah.
You know, because you said ballet,
and
ballet.
I came home and I said to my husband, this is going to be big.
Yeah.
And so I went for it. And I lost 10 kilograms. And I started to create, there was nowhere to go for support. I remember going to a doctor who was a woman, not my current doctor, when I first got here, and I said, I'm having an emotional breakdown. I'm a mess. And she said, I can't help you. With a dead straight face.
You're not only one, there's isn't today, you and I agree today, I try to convince you, you can't make it everybody just to use the makeup to be pretty, but I want you to use your life experience to make it people's life prettier in a different way. That is to inject your willingness to live to your willingness to love the life as you do, because you experience so much. And I was listening to you, I was just making notes, and you said, like, you know, that first 10 years of their life in Australia was a dark.
I call them the 10 dark years.
And life comes in different shapes, sizes, and forms for all of us. And I truly believe that somehow we've been given this to live with and to see what we can do it. I don't know, you call it the God, universe, whatever you want to call it. But again, I can't say just I'm admiring you and your family, your husband, your kids and grandkids. But I'm really grateful, seriously, personally, I'm grateful that you drove to there from Canberra, sharing your story and reminding me how grateful I should be even more for my life. And I was thinking my life was a pretty shit, you know what I mean? That, you know, like, you know, seriously. You know what I mean? You know how everybody starts the story, life story. Yeah. My mom didn't love me, my dad didn't. I don't care. And then there comes the war, like, you know what I mean? And as I said to you at the beginning, my girlfriend, she was a ballet dancer, and she dumped me for somebody else because I was not good enough for her, because I was just a soldier officer in the army, and she says, I need somebody who I can have the life, you know, have the family. I was like, what's wrong with me? But you reminding me that life, it's to be lived, not to exist. And
100%.
You are testament to this. You are Adele. You're not a jar on tail to make everybody happy. You teach it. How many kids? Hundreds of kids, right? Yeah. What do you think? How many kids now talk about you today?
They do, still on the social medias.
Once upon a time, there was Adele. Ooh.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
They all say that I set them up for life with what I taught them.
I want to ask you something. Let's go talk about womanhood, right? About women. Yeah. You know, you lived through the different times in life, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s, like me. And we saw how the life and world is changing rapidly, right? From printed media to social media. Before, I remember, what was her name? Samantha Fox or Brigitte Bardot or Sophia Loren. My mom, she would buy a magazine and there was a centerfold, you know, Sophie Loren. It was like, oh my God. You know, as a boys, like, you know, we were all so like, still, yeah, exactly. Now, you know, or what's it called? Lolo Bridge, what's it called? Gina Lolo Bridge or whatever. All this is like, oh my God, look at this one, right? Today, you go on a social media, boom, instant. Yeah. Everybody has a makeup. Everybody's up. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Okay. But yet, people unhappy. Let's go talk about women. What do you see through your life experience? Why the women are unhappier now than before? Before your daddy told you you can't do it. But I think that women today, it's more competing with the other women to look better, prettier, sexier, whatever it is, and yet they're unhappier.
It's very deep, Mario. Yeah. It's more than that.
Okay.
It's...
Give us your...
First of all, it's their lives.
Okay.
Okay, life is so rushed and so pressured. Everything happens now, like you said. Not like in the olden days where you wrote a letter and you waited 3 weeks for them to get it and 3 weeks for them to reply. 6 weeks turnaround.
Sorry,
okay?
Yeah.
Now it's 60 seconds.
Like this.
Okay?
If he doesn't reply, it's like, oh, why she doesn't, why they don't reply? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, eh?
So it's fast paced. People don't have time to dilly-dally, and the mothers and the parents, I just watch them here, and it's really, really hard. First of all, they get married, now they need a roof over their heads, and you know, the interest rates and to purchase property in Australia right now is just beyond reach. And then they have to pay off these mortgages. They feel pressured. We need to own our own home, so they get themselves into debt. They then need the vehicle. They need all the furnishings for the home, the electricity, all those overheads, you know. And then they need jobs. So they go and they do these jobs, and they're then being pulled up, you know, caught up for 40 hours a week at work. Then they want children, so they have children, so the children have to be dropped off at daycare, and you know what that's costing them every day for their children to have daycare. Then they bring them home and they rush and they have to just quickly get them to do their homework, to get so they feed them. They have to come home, cook, feed the children, get them ready for bed, get them into bed, and then their lives start at 8, 9 o'clock at night.
That's a big, long list there.
It's a huge. They're exhausted. Then they get into bed. Now they want to have a social life with their families, their husbands at night. They want to watch movies. They go to bed too late. They get up in the morning. The children wake them up through the night. The dog wakes them up, and then because they have to have the dog as well, and then they get up in the morning. The whole rat race starts again. Boom, 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 boom. Saturday comes, I listen to the mothers talking about how the child has to be at this soccer, all these things. They're rushing, trying to look happy, trying to look. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. And so the mother gives. She gives everything she's got to those children. And she runs out of time for her. She doesn't even fit on the list. There's no space for her anyway. And so then she's comforting, grabbing food as she runs. She says the wrong foods. She doesn't understand it's the wrong foods. It's making her put on weight. She doesn't realize that. It's creating her anxiety. She doesn't realize that. She's not breathing. She hasn't got time to breathe. She doesn't understand what that means. And you do that every day, all day, 7 days a week, the whole year, year after year. And 10, 20 years pass. She's put on weight. She's very unhappy. She looks in the mirror. She doesn't recognize herself. She's full of anxiety. Her blood tests from the doctor are poor. Her health's going downhill. She's given everything she's got. She's a burnt-out woman. And there's nowhere to go for support because every time she goes onto her phone, she's seeing what you're talking about. Social media bombarding her with the way she should be perfect, the way she should be looking, the way she should be taking care of herself. She feels pressured because she's being told she must take care of herself. And so she just crashes. She crashes.
One thing I want to, because, when we prepare for the interview today with you, right? You said you helping women to step into their confidence. So I want to ask you, why we have the less confidence, even men maybe. But then it's related to, you said something before, in your example, you said like, Mari, I was unhappy and I was having emotional eating and I gained 10 kilos. But then I lost 10 kilos. Today we take the Ozempic and people lose the weight. You know the Ozempic injection? Did you know that there's an injection?
Okay.
Ozempic, it's called Ozempic.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You look at the Oprah Winfrey. She's like, like I'm 70 years old, but look like I'm 18 years old. She lost the weight because, it's a medications for diabetics, right? It's an insulin, right? Injections.
That's right. Yes.
So people go the shortcuts. And I say like, when you do shortcuts.
And they also have the lac band, all the stomach.
Yeah, like when you do all these shortcuts, be prepared that life is going to give it to you back because people forgetting, that it's not what you do with your body. Body's going to do to you back, somehow. So let's go talk first thing, lack of confidence. How do you help the women to step back into their confidence? First, tell me why they're lacking confidence and how you help them to gain confidence.
Because they see all these constantly bombarded every day by media, by advertising on quick fix, and they've tried all these things and they haven't worked.
Okay.
So they think there's something wrong with them.
So frustration grows, right?
Huge. Yeah. And so they haven't got a lot of time to dedicate to this because they're focusing on nurturing everyone else. And so they just constantly live with the pain, the discomfort, whatever it is that's bothering them. Maybe it's their waistline, their clothes don't fit, they just buy a bigger size. I've been there, I've tried that, I've tried the exercise, I've tried the weight loss, I've tried all these things, they don't work for me, it must be me, there's something wrong with me, I just have to accept who I am. And
that unhappiness transferring and translating to their daily life, work, family, friends, right?
Very unhappy.
But how do you help them? So when somebody comes to,
if they come to me, they've made a decision to make change.
Okay.
But a lot don't come to me because they're frightened. It's fear. What are you going to make me do? I've seen how those people get whipped at the gym and screamed and shouted at and burpees and more burpees. Let me just tell you, my clients, not one of my clients ever have I asked them to do a burpee. All right?
Can I shake your hand? Do you know why?
Because it's the most dangerous thing to do.
I'm fed up with these things. I'm 52 years old man. I'm wounded 3 times in the war. I have 40 fractures, 125 kilo man. I love my size. Never trained to be skinny enough in this. I trained to be hard to kill. I love my boxing, anything else. One thing, what I can understand, all these guys in your gym, your trainers and all this, shouting on clients and screaming, they think they're in the army. I was in the army. There was never shouting on us. There was a very few occasions, you know what I mean? When you stand in front of 100 people, it's like, did you hear me? So you need to, you know, understand that, hear your voice. But all this shouting, as you say, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what they're expecting. Someone's going to scream on them, they're going to laugh on them, all these ones.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm deeply passionate about was when I was doing the bodybuilding. So what I did when I got to Australia is, first of all, I did the beauty, refreshed the beauty specialist. Yeah. Then I went into the personal training, found I'd personally trained myself, got my ballet body back, and I just got really, really confident. And my daughter was auditioning for a musical in Canberra. And I said, I'm going to audition as well. It was cabaret. And I might get in. I just want to get into dance. And I got in as a prostitute. So she was lead prostitute. Yeah. And I thought, there's no way I'm going on that stage with a flabby tummy, because all the ballet fraternity is going to come and watch Miss Adele on the stage. I'm going to have a perfect body. Yes. So I started bodybuilding. Because that, I thought, well, they've got cut abs. I need cut abs. So I've got a coach, and I started training, and I did bodybuilding. And then he said, well, why don't you compete in Melbourne at the all-female classic? And that competition was 2 weeks before cabaret opened.
Okay.
So I had 2 goals, and that was to get the weight down so that I could go on the stage and perform in cabaret in a negligee, and look good. So I competed in the all-female classic, and I thought, if I can get up on the stage in that skimpy little bikini in front of 3,000 people, I'd be able to come back to Canberra and get on the stage in a negligee in front of the local people. Yeah. So I did it, and it was the most exhilarating experience, and came back, got on the stage, performed the opening night. When I stepped out onto the stage on opening night in cabaret, I was 52. It was my birthday. And I hadn't been on the stage for 30 years, performed professionally on the stage for 30 years. So my son was 19, sitting in the audience with his girlfriend 4 rows from the front in the middle. Kirsten and I went out on the stage together, mum and daughter. And I danced like my life depended on it. I was 52. And my son has never, ever spoken about what he saw. He's never mentioned it. I think he's scarred for life. But it was the best fun I'd ever had. And because if you'd see the photographs of Kirsten and I performing, I'm just laughing the whole time. It was so much fun.
So can you say that women, we have now this society which is, it's where we call this body imaging, you know what I mean, where we're supposed to accept everything and anything what we see. But even people are still drawn today to the social media to look like somebody, right? Yeah. And I think that it's a big competition amongst the women to look better, feel better, be sexy and everything else. It's all on likes and all this artificial, extraordinary. You know what I mean, the cortisol level in your brain, like, I need to feel happy and all this goes off. There's so many gurus over there. There's so many.
Everyone's an expert.
Right. Yeah, right. That one. You know,
yeah.
I love that one. But what sets you apart? It's, I will say this again and again and again. Over. You have full credibility, authority to coach other people because you know how. Those experts, you and I agree today, everybody knows how to do in theory. And so when I talk to somebody, it's like, show me how to do it. I say, what do you mean? It's like, well, it's easy to talk. Show me. So you can show an example how to do it. Healthy waistlines. How much is this influencing women life to feel that they don't look overweight or flabby stomach or anything else, as you say?
Yeah, it's about what you eat, and of course that's discipline.
Discipline.
So discipline equals happiness because it equals success. So, or you can put in whatever order you like, but discipline equals success equals happiness. And that's what I learned from the ballet industry. That's what I was taught. It was drilled into us. We had Russian ballet teachers that came through to the Rhodesian National Ballet. You know, we had all these people come and teach us. And so it's self-discipline. At the end of the day, bottom line, self-discipline. We can hide behind all our excuses. But when it comes to women and where do they start? After I was in the cabaret, I then was really enjoying the bodybuilding. So my trainer said, well, why don't you compete down the South Coast? Yeah. So I went and I competed down the South Coast, and I managed to win my category, my age group. And what that qualified me to do was go to the World Championships in Dubai. To go with the Australian team. So there were 100 of us, and I've got the Australian colours, right? I wore the Australian colours, and I went to Dubai.
So how did you feel, Adele, when you wore these Australian colours in Dubai?
I just wished my dad had been alive. I just wished he had seen me. I was on my own. I wouldn't have let the family come with. It would have cost too much money. So I went on my own. It was the most incredible experience. It was like a life-changing. It was a pivotal moment in my life because I came home an Australian. I won 2 silver medals for Australia in that competition. And I then from there went on holiday through Europe on my own. And everywhere I went, I had to worry about the medals. I was worried. I was advised not to take them on the plane because they could be used as a weapon. Yeah.
The medals?
Yeah.
Who told you this? Oh my God, who's those people who told you this?
So I had to put them in my suitcase, and then I was worried the suitcases would get lost. You know, I was worried the suitcases would get lost. So right through Europe, carrying these medals everywhere. But got my medals, came home an Australian. It was like I was being given a huge big tick. This is what I'm going to do.
Don't you think that your life was actually leading to this very moment?
It
today?
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
But even this today podcast, because you achieved something what most of women think they cannot achieve because one thing, age barrier. I think that most of women, they're believing when they come to certain age, that's it, boom,
Yes.
no more movement. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, but I think society looks at women like that. I mean, women become invisible over a certain age.
Okay.
Women, I've actually had a client tell me that Adele, I've become invisible because I've got grey hair and I'm over 40, over 50. So that wasn't going to happen, not happening. I had too much of life still to lead and to live. And I had said, when I was going through those 10 dark years, that I want to create something positive for my family. I didn't realize that it would have the word smile in it, as in her smile. And would love to bring out his smile as well. My son's very interested in creating his smile, the boy side, the male side of the program of the business. Yeah. But anyway, he's definitely his mother all over again. And so what we so I came home with these qualifications, and that took off. It helped the personal training side of my business to really take off. My clients who were doing beauty with me were suddenly very interested because they'd watched the change in me. And then I was so enjoying my ballet body back that I then discovered this thing called personal styling, where you could have your colours done. I remember my mum's colours being done in the 70s, but then you could also do the styling as being taught how to dress correctly. So I did that diploma in personal styling and the colours, excuse me. Yeah. And I suddenly looked at my business and realized that I had a business that could help women learn to move correctly. When I was going to the gyms, I looked and realized and saw that the women at the gyms, the people at the gyms, had no idea what they were doing. They were going in and doing what the trainer had told them to do and then going home, but they weren't getting any results, or they were getting injured because they weren't being instructed how to do it correctly. Now, I've had 47 years experience teaching bodies how to move correctly. I want to stand on rooftops and scream that because it means so much. People do not realize that they are not getting the results they want because they are not being instructed how to do them correctly. It's not because they can't do it. Every body is designed to move. Okay. They are not being shown how to move correctly. So I created a program, and I called it Let's Move Correctly program. And during COVID, I put this, videoed myself doing it and put it into a program online, which I was then, my ballet students, my ex-ballet students from the 70s and 60s, 70s and 70s and 80s, they were saying, Miss Adele, we've seen you online and you're looking amazing. What are you doing? We want to do that as well, including my ballet teacher.
Nice.
And so I gave it to them. I wasn't charging them. I just gave it to them. We'll do this back home. And they were getting results as well. And I went, okay. Then I visited my doctor who I'd been with for 20 years, and she noticed with the bodybuilding and everything what was going on and the pelvic floor. I said, I've become a pelvic floor specialist. She says, I've noticed a difference in your pelvic floor. What have you done? And I said, well, I've got this program. And she said, well, can I buy it? I want to do it as well. So she did my program, and now she endorses it because she said she'd been buying programs from celebrities, and all of them, every single one of them tells you what to do. But she says for the first time in her life, someone actually showed her how to do it via video form. And it was life-changing for her. So this was life-changing for everyone. All my clients who have come have said that, one, I have shown them how to recruit their pelvic floors correctly, because the doctor said to me, the female doctor, she said, for the first time in my life, I now understand the pelvic floor and how to recruit it correctly. And secondly, I now know how to move correctly. So that's my first thing. My biggest passion is you need to know the moment you do that, you feel so much more confident in your body. The pain, you get diminished pain because you know how to move and sit and stand and do all those things correctly so that you're not constantly injuring yourself. And then I bring in the joy of a healthy waistline. So how to eat correctly for a healthy waistline, a healthy lifestyle. So eating correctly to be healthy, to change your blood chemistry so that when you go for a blood test, your doctor says, yay, what have you done? All right? It's about blood chemistry. You change that, you change your waistline. Okay? They are linked. And this is why I've had the most incredible results with the ladies doing that. Then it was skincare. When I moved to Australia, I refreshed my qualification, discovered the skincare, and it is not tubes of hope. Women are spending money on tubes of hope of skincare that don't give them the results that they want. The skincare that I use has won Best Medical Skincare for 7 years in a row, that it's actually now it won it for the decade, because it actually does change the skin and you get the results that you want. Reversing sun damage, what we call aging, the doctor who is a plastic surgeon calls it sun damage. Then with makeup, I decided that, because now I'm on a roll, I refreshed my qualification with the makeup. I did it with Lizzie Sharp, brilliant, one of Australia's top makeup artists, absolutely phenomenal. And then Donna May, she is from Hollywood, one of Hollywood's top makeup artists, absolutely incredible women. And they helped me regain confidence in not regain, but just give me all the latest must-haves and do's for makeup. And then I discovered Global Hair and Makeup. And Global Hair and Makeup take makeup artists around the world to do makeup for the Formula One Grand Prix Amber Lounge event that is hosted by Prince Albert of Monaco.
Okay.
Now, Prince Albert of Monaco, it's a charity event.
Yeah.
The drivers the drivers walk the runway, and so we would be flown in as makeup artists to do their makeup, which they don't need much. But you're with the press when you do the makeup, and it's all very fancy. And I've got some fabulous photos with the drivers and the press. I also was very fortunate to do makeup for the only female driver, Tatiana Calderon. So it was great that her smile got to do makeup for Tatiana Calderon. And she was so humble, a beautiful young lady. But also, first of all, Global Hair and Makeup allowed me to go to Singapore. I did it for the first time there. And you also do it for the models that walk the runway with the designers of the country wearing their clothes. Then I did it in Mexico. They offered me Mexico, which was phenomenal. And then they gave me senior makeup artist in Monaco, baby. So I went to Monaco. There I did Natalie Pinkham's makeup. She's the Sky News reporter for Formula One. And she was hosting the whole event, and I did her makeup and made her feel absolutely amazing. And she took my hand and she said, "Please stay with me until I step out onto the stage to see Prince of Albert of Monaco at the event." And she wanted me to stay with her. That's how confident she was in what I'd done. So then I also did makeup for Lady Victoria Harvey. And then I did makeup on the super yachts. So I was given a phenomenal experience thanks to Global Hair and Makeup. And then I came back, and now I offer the makeup artistry for faces as they change as you age. They're really, really important. Women don't know where to put makeup. And I always say no makeup is better than bad makeup.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Better is no makeup than the makeup.
No makeup is better than bad makeup. You need to know where to put it and why. So that's my makeup course. And then I do the color analysis and the styling, because it's really important what colors you wear. Colors send a very important message about who you are. And so they send a message before you say anything. And that's why McDonald's have colors in red and yellow, because they stimulate your appetite. Red is authority. Black is strength. Blue is trust. I can trust you. Yeah. So you've got to be very careful what colors you put on. And so color, and then where you put those colors on your body will make you feel amazing. So some colors highlight an area, some colors hide an area. So that's what we work on with the styling.
So before I ask you questions about your business more, the two things happen right now in this interview. This last 15 minutes, your energy is through the roof. Your passion is just skyrocketed. I just really like it, is because, as you speak, right, just sharing your path, your life, and what your life looks like. I've seen that little girl from Rhodesia, your first statement, 5 years old, with her first trophy as a ballet dancer. And now I'm hearing like Prince of Monaco, Sky News, Tatiana Calderon, and then Lizzie Sharp, and the names like some of them I heard sometimes, but I didn't. Prince of Monaco, everybody knows. But the Formula One, that's all these prestigious events. Social media cannot just depict it. There's not people enough to be there. Only few people can see and be behind the
behind the scenes.
Behind the scene, like yourself. We can all guess. We can all be present on Formula One and watch drivers and what is happening. But what's the behind the scene? That's where the secrets, the gold, the magic it is. So like that little girl from Rhodesia, 5 years old, with her first trophy. Then I see that little girl as well who's been led down by her ballet teacher and chasing with her husband paper with the border to cross into Tibet. So do you understand? Your story, it's not just for the one group of the people. I think that everybody, and more or less, and that's what I'm thankful again, that you come today. Because your story, it is the testament, as I say, that it can be done. Impossible, it's possible. And everything led you today to be in Canberra. And look at this abundant life experience. But the most of people they complain they have no money. Well, as I say, most of the people complain today they, I don't know, the microwave doesn't work, you know what I mean? And you will live in a cage to survive with your kids. I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. And, you know, what did you say about baseline? You said something very interesting.
Blood chemistry.
No, success.
Discipline equals success equals happiness.
That's correct, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's a very powerful.
Yeah.
That is very powerful. So tell me something. We didn't touch another thing, which is like wardrobe. When you talk about wardrobe women, you know, today it's again, I think less is more I'm seeing today. When I was growing up, women had the skirts, you know, everything was just like, and as a kid, we always, that imagination was like, oh my God, like, you know, today women have a less to attract the guys. How do you help the women to, with age, choose the proper wardrobe?
Very good
to
question.
stay feminine
Very good.
or happy or...
Again, such a deep question. And what we do is we start with them. We discuss who they are. We have to get to know them first. And very often they don't know themselves.
Okay.
So I have to find out, we at Her Smile have to work with them to identify who they actually are, who they want to be, study their lifestyles, establish what they love, what they don't like. We go through all that process, which they haven't had the time to take themselves through, to give them the opportunity to actually identify what it is that they want, what it is that they don't want. Most people just say, I just want to be comfortable. Because in their lifestyle, you know, raising children, depending on the age of your child, if you've got babies, you don't want to be wearing fancy outfits and then they vomit on you and leave a mark. So it depends on their lifestyle, it depends on their occupation, it depends on their budget, but even budget, there's always a way around it. But what they need to do, first of all, is to make a decision, whether it's movement and exercise, no matter where they're at, if they're feeling that they're needing support in any way, because remember I said to you, there was no support. For those 10 years, when I was in that dark place, there was no support for me. I went looking everywhere. There was no support. I created programs for myself. I personally trained myself. I did it all for myself and made notes all along the way. So that now my daughter came into business with me and we created Her Smile and rebranded it. And it was to help women step into their power. Mm-hmm. And one of my clients, who's a high-profile client, she said to me, Adele, we all need a woman, a mother like you to help us and guide us so that we can have the power we need to be women. And can I quote that? Because it's support. It starts with support and guidance, a listening ear. This is my starting point. No matter where it is, it's always different. You may have had a botched hip replacement, but you may not, you might have severe acne, adult acne. You may have a large waistline and it's uncomfortable. You may have really sore knees. You may have a beautiful body, but you just don't know how to dress correctly and you're embarrassed of your wardrobe. Everybody's starting point is different, but it's deciding to just reach out. That decision, that's the hardest one to make. That first initial step, it's taking the action. Action, you can have all the information you like, but if you're not taking the action, there will be no results.
So Her Smile, it's that one-stop shop.
Helping every woman discover her smile.
Discover themselves. I say something as a man. I don't know nothing about how the women goes through the process of when they decide to not to be women, right? But I know the men because I'm surrounded with the men and dealing with the men, particularly in boxing. When we because I do boxing, I'm still competing even today. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so And my coach Rodney Williams is from South Africa, so he's I'm seeing him today, by the way. But so like I'm still doing the boxing because boxing in communism was a sport which was reserved only for criminals. But I went into boxing because I was a little chubby guy as today, but they was trying to pick on me, and I need to fight myself. All the time fight for myself. Today is different, but the thing is, I'm seeing the men around me, and they say the moment when they decide to move forward, it's to change their life. When the wife, girlfriend, partner, she says to him, "You are obese. We have no sex. She's looking somebody else." So there's a breaking point. I think it's a revenge body, right? But for the women, must be the point in life when they just give up on a life. I don't understand when is that moment and why is this happen. Why the women start become women? You gave me the list: the kids, the dog, the home, the lunch, the dinner, emotional eating. That was a long list. But where is the moment, if you can share with our audience, women, not to stop being women? When they can stop preventing becoming unhappy with themselves?
The point where they can stop.
Yes.
Where do they make that decision?
Yeah.
I asked a psychologist that. I asked her, trying to understand the clients, the women, at what point do they decide to actually take action and do something? And she said they just have to make the decision. They just have to make the decision. So I said, okay, so something pivotal will happen in their lives, obviously, that where they just go to, first of all, they discover me. They suddenly realize, I've now finally found the solution, because so many people are looking for solutions and don't know where to start. Remember, they've tried the exercise, they've tried the 15 diets, and none of them worked. It's not meant for me. I'm obviously just meant to look like this. Then they discover me. When they discover me and they realize that there are opportunities, that there is a tried and tested program, taking the 6 essential steps you need to take to rediscover yourself.
Yes.
And empower yourself.
So you do all of this with the women, right?
Yes.
Because
we start with a conversation.
Yeah, because I think that what the biggest my concern it is in society we live. Again, I'll talk from my point of view, but I see people around me. They've been judged. That's what it is. I look like this guy. I look like this girl.
Okay.
When you go on a beach, I can see the people. I couldn't care less. I said if you judge me, you're done. I'm gonna show you how little you can be. But most of people don't go on a beach, don't go in a public life because they're afraid. They're not those people from social media. They're not fit into society because of some reasons. And you empower them actually to change their life on a better.
Yeah. And we start with a very discreet conversation. And it can all be done online, so they don't have to come to a gym.
Okay.
They can do it in the safety of their home, in the privacy of their home. I've got a client at the moment who contacted me, and she said, before I step into your world, I want you to first of all know that I don't want anyone to know I come to you. I don't want anyone to see me there. And I don't want any photographs of me up on social media. And I went, it'll be as discreet as you want it to be. And then I have another client who wants it all up on social media to show her journey of change and transformation. So everyone's different. We are talking about individuals. Every single person is different. And everybody's starting point is different. But they all start by taking the action to have the phone call, the conversation with me. You've got to take the action.
And they can find you on your website.
Or they can email me and we can start just emailing. Some people don't want to talk if they find that confronting. Some people want to Zoom. Some people want to talk. Some people want to text. Some people want to email.
I want everybody to understand one thing. Don't, when you talk to Adele and say like, it's easy for her. I want you to listen to this interview. I want you to hear that story from the 5-year-old girl standing on a stage with her first trophy in ballet, and her life through Rhodesia, South Africa, and Australia. That's Adele today. And she has a full authority and credibility to talk to you, to help you and assist you. So before we wind up today's interview, right? Don't want to save that chocolate on the table. We can eat chocolate.
My stomach's rumbling.
Yes. So, any goals for the future? Any goals of yours for the future? Netflix show, books, series?
I will definitely. I have written a book. I just need to publish it.
Okay.
Because I probably need a kick up the bottom to do that.
Okay.
But what I do want to do is to take Her Smile global.
Okay.
And so I'm working with an incredible business coach who's helping me to take the necessary steps to get it to women, because we want to empower women and help them discover their smiles. And so my goal for the future is to lead through my 60s. I'm 62. Lead women through the 70s.
I was just about to ask you for your driver's license if you're underage. You'll look.
So as I go through the decades, I want to show them how it's done, so that they can always look up and follow. And I'm
how
leading.
it's done, and that's what you said, stipulated a few times through our conversation. How it's done. You said this in your interview. People don't achieve results because they don't know. They are not shown how to move. I mean, that's my notes. I mean,
yes.
And success depends on how to do.
Yes.
So you can demonstrate how to.
Yeah, I've
achieve.
done it all.
Yeah.
I've done it all. I've tried and tested programs. My clients have done it all. Starting different points. Don't think that because you are over 60, you're too old, or over 70, you're too old, or you're too overweight. I've had people lose 30 and 40 kilograms. It's about getting started. But if you are carrying weight, my advice to you is to be very careful about your knees and hips. You must not be doing a lot of aggressive exercise if you are carrying weight, because it's putting too much pressure on your knees.
You're
and hips.
absolutely right. You see, that's what when I'm seeing the box, okay, talk about men, and excuse me, now my voice is going. Anyway, that's maybe talking too long.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit longer. Anyway.
It's going to be 3 podcasts.
Yeah, even my doctor, my good friend of mine, Dr. Wing, he says to me, look, Mari, on your weight and everything else, you're still moving well. A lot of pills, a lot of people already taking pills in their 30s. A lot of men in 30s already have pills.
Wow.
From mental health to the blood pressure and everything else. It's like, that doesn't make a sense. But he says what the people don't understand, they go in a gym, and they have a personal trainer who's shouting on them, who is pushing them, and they say their body cannot carry that weight, and they're putting more pressure, more damage. Adele, I only can say thank you for today. I really, I can't even wrap it up this as a normal podcast. This podcast, it is where we discussing the losses and the battles and the victories and the wars and everything else, how to face the obstacles. But I think today you wrap it up for many my podcasts, many episodes you done for all of them. I never met a woman who has a journey like yourself.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I say this with all my heart. I always say to people, we all love to see some podcast people, the celebrities talking to us. I'm not interested for them. Their stories there. When the actor speaks, once actor, it's always actor.
Okay.
It's their alter ego. It's nothing to do. Their stories like me. I don't care. You're there to sell something. Today, podcast is not about selling, but I want people come to you because you truly have something what most of men don't have. My father was a coward. I said this always. I forgive him, but was a coward. But if my father is alive today, I'd like to hear your interview to see what it takes to protect the family and do work in an environment which is so unsafe. And thank you for being the beacon, the light for all of us. Honestly, I think that your story, it's truly deserves the Netflix series. Honestly, I'm still on your friend, 16 years old, being killed by terrorists. About your father pushing under the bed to you because of the mortar, artillery shelling. So, thank you, Adele, for being my guest today.
Thank you, Mario. It was a great pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, before we go, where the people can find you?
Her Smile, HER, and then smile, smile.com.au. That's where you'll get all my contact details to all my social media, and you can email me or telephone 0422 572 133 Australia.
I'm glad before we leave that you have no tears in your eyes anymore. But I just want to know, why her smile?
Well, smile. You know, I attended a 48 warrior immersion course here in Sydney a few years ago, and apparently I just smiled and laughed right through the whole 48 hours. It was Scotty Everett. I don't know if you've heard of him, the ninja warrior. He did special forces for 8 years, and he created this warrior immersion course to train the guys to get into the military. I didn't know that. So when I signed up, I just thought I was going to do exercise for 48 hours, and actually I was training to do the training you do to enter special forces. I was 55, and I was the only woman, and there were 15 men. And apparently I just kept smiling and laughing. And they would say, right, now you're going to hold your gun and you're going to leopard crawl across the beach to that place over there. And I burst out laughing, and I said to the guys, come on, let's chant. And the one guy shouted at me, what does chanting mean? And everybody went on their own, and I just kept laughing because I couldn't believe I was doing it. So it was 2015, and I got a nickname. They called me Smiley.
Okay.
And I suppose it comes from my soul. Smile. Everyone deserves to smile. That's the one thing we all deserve. It's our human right to be happy and to smile. And so I can give women the information they need, because they say you can't be everything to everyone. I had to nail down and fine-tune who I was actually targeting. And so it was for women. So it's her smile.
I'm going to quote what you say right now in our interview. We all deserve, all humans deserve to be happy, to smile.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you, Adele, for being my guest today.
Thank you for inviting me.